Upon his birth, he was betrothed to a Sword Saintess who had remained solitary for 3,000 years. Yet, gazing at the marriage contract in her hand, the Sword Saintess felt an intense sense of resentment. Am I, a Sword Saint who has traversed the continent for thousands of years, truly expected to marry a child who has just been born? However, no matter what methods she employed, she could not even leave a mark upon this marriage document. What astonished her even more was that this child possessed the legendary tyrannical sword body. Could this betrothal be a gift bestowed by the heavens? How interesting. However, if you wish for me to acknowledge this union, you have a long way to go. At this moment, your eyes widen. Standing before you is the target arranged by the system. The fiancée assigned to you is truly peerless in beauty. Her words are pleasant to the ear, and it seems you must strive diligently in this lifetime. You mutter to yourself in your heart. Zhang Fuxin's features are delicate, though her eyes carry a hint of bewilderment. Why does this child cry one moment, stare blankly the next, and then giggle like a fool? Before departing, she places the blood-red jade pendant she has carried with her for years against your chest. 3 years pass, and you, now 3 years of age, are engrossed in reading a basic sword manual with great fervor. Having read a vast array of books over this time, you have gained an understanding of the cultivation system and the various realms, using the most common path of sword cultivation as an example. The realms of cultivation are divided into Sword Disciple, Sword Master, Sword Sect, Sword Marquis, Sword King, Sword Emperor, Sword Saint, and Sword Immortal, totaling 8 great realms. However, the Sword Immortal exists only in legends. The Sword Saint is already the absolute pinnacle. At this moment, a clear, melodious female voice echoes. You look up to see a young woman in a crimson dress and offer a naive, childish smile. Big sister. Shenshi walks over with light, joyful steps. Seeing the book in your hands, Shenshi approaches you. She reaches out to gently pinch your fair, small cheeks. Her voice is crisp as she says, "What is so interesting about reading books? Come walk the streets with your elder sister. I shall buy you candid haws." You shake your head. You reply with a smile, "Thank you, big sister. But I do not desire candied haws, I desire a sword." Hearing this, Shenshi lets out a fit of rhythmic laughter. Haha, little Mu is truly adorable. To be so young and already interested in reading and swordsmanship. You will surely have a bright future. You blink, watching as Shenshi hums a light tune and departs from the courtyard. Afterwards, you look through the basic sword manual several more times. You decide to go and watch your second brother practice his swordsmanship. The courtyard is spacious. Your second brother, Chen Hao, is practicing his swordplay while shirtless, with faint white mist swirling around his lips. That is the spiritual energy absorbed into the body through breathing techniques. Have you ever read about breathing techniques in books? It introduces advanced breathing techniques capable of absorbing spiritual energy through every pore of the body. The stronger the physique, the faster the rate of absorption. Having understood the cultivation system, you prepare to exchange for a high-grade breathing technique in the system mall to begin your practice. Little Mu, come here. Chen Hao stopped his training, and after a brief conversation, learning that you wish to follow him to study cultivation, he taught you a few simple movements, and subsequently explained the breathing method to you, which was the breathing technique from the basic sword manual, and also the most commonly encountered method. Utilizing the breathing technique to sink your energy into your dantian, you feel a flow of warmth circulating within your body. With each breath, this warmth grows even stronger. Chen Hao told you to practice your horse stance first, while he continued to practice basic techniques in the courtyard. Half an hour later, Chen Hao looked towards you not far away, his eyes widening in shock. He saw a stream of white mist continuously flowing into your mouth. Despite using the same breathing technique, the results were vastly different. Chen Hao scratched his head and gave a goofy smile, excitedly saying, "Incredible, you are truly worthy of being my third brother." In the evening, Shenshi returned to the courtyard. "This is a sword I am gifting to you, younger brother. It was a wooden sword, shorter than a standard iron sword by a significant margin, lacking a sharp edge, but it was undoubtedly a true sword. Thank you, elder sister. You did not slight it in the least." You reached out both hands to receive it as the young master's wife called for everyone to dine. At that moment, a maidservant ran into the courtyard to relay the message. Coming right away, you nodded at the maid. You brandished the wooden sword in your hand. "Second brother, tomorrow I will come to find you to learn the sword again." At night, you returned to your room, sat cross-legged on the bed, and prepared to exchange for a superior breathing technique. Having been reborn into this world where martial arts are supreme, your aspiration is to become a sword immortal admired by thousands, wandering through life with a 3-foot blade. Host, Chen Mu, Realm, None, Points, 1200. The breathing techniques in the system mall are countless. You selected the creation breathing technique you had set your sights on previously. Although it is only of the 4th grade spirit rank and not considered heaven-defying, however, compared to the breathing technique within the basic sword manual, it is many times more powerful. Exchange successful. 1,000 accumulation points consumed. The cultivation technique is imprinted directly into your sea of consciousness, and you achieve immediate mastery as if enlightened by a master. That night, the spiritual energy surrounding the Chen estate gathered frantically toward your room. Spiritual energy surged and flooded into your body, circulating through your limbs and 100 meridians. Your obstructed channels were instantly cleared. Your flesh and bones began to absorb the excess spiritual energy within your body. Yet you remained unaware that after being cleared, your meridians were significantly wider than those of an ordinary person. The following day, you slowly opened your eyes. At this moment, the system interface appeared. Host Chen Mu, realm, 3rd rank sword disciple. Accumulation points, 200. 3rd rank, mid-stage sword disciple with no previous cultivation base. You were somewhat astonished. You had only begun your path yesterday afternoon. Yet in merely half a day, you had broken through 3 ranks in succession. You could not help but ponder. This must certainly be related to your unique physique. The dominant sword physique sounds formidable by name alone, yet you still do not fully grasp its true potential. You withdrew a snow-white jade pendant from your robes. This jade pendant remains warm in the winter and cool in the summer. During your cultivation last night, you sensed the pendant aiding you in the absorption of spiritual energy. It seems this jade also serves to assist in one's practice. You put the jade pendant away. A smile tugged at the corner of your lips. Your fiancée must surely hold you in high regard. Otherwise, she would not have gifted you such an object. You never intended to rely on external connections. You are determined to rely solely on your own efforts to reach the pinnacle of strength. After finishing breakfast the next morning, you hurried off to find your second brother to practice swordsmanship. Elsewhere, Shen Shi was preparing to depart for the Hangzhou Martial Academy. After several days of rest at home, she was ready to return to her studies. The greatest difference between a martial academy and a sect is that one must pay tuition to enter the former, while the latter bestows spirit stones upon its disciples. The disparity between the two is immense. The sect situated near the Great Yan dynasty is known as the Profound Sword Sect, and its entrance standards are far more rigorous than those of other sects. Shen Shi possessed only average talent and failed to pass the entrance examination for the Profound Sword Sect. The Chen family had no choice but to spend a large sum of money to send her to the Hangzhou Martial Academy for further training. Chen Hao informed you that your eldest sister was leaving, and the two of you decided to see her off at the relay station. The streets of Black Rock City were lined with peddlers and merchants. On the way, Shen Shi purchased a candied hawthorn skewer for you. Before departing, Shen Shi instructed Chen Hao, "You are the elder brother. You must take good care of your younger brother at home. You can rest assured, sister." Chen Hao draped his arm over your shoulder. You waved toward Shen Shi, saying in a youthful, milky voice, "Big sister, wait for me to return home for the new year. Let us promise to meet again during the festivities," as Shen Shi waved back, visibly reluctant to leave. After seeing your eldest sister off, the two brothers returned to the Chen family estate to continue their cultivation. The courtyard was vast and desolate. You looked at your hands, sensing the spiritual energy coating them. You had successfully entered the 4th grade sword disciple realm, host Chen Mu. With your cultivation at the early stage of the 4th grade sword disciple realm, and 207 accumulation points, and your quest map updated, you were brimming with newfound power. A single punch now carried a force of 400 caddies, enough to effortlessly topple a bull. Seeing Chen Hao still training, drenched in sweat, you called out to him happily, "Second brother." Chen Hao stopped at the sound of your voice. "Third brother, is something the matter?" "Second brother, I found that the breathing technique you taught me had some flaws, so I made a few modifications." "Not stable? A breathing technique must not be altered recklessly, or you risk suffering from qi deviation," Chen Hao said sternly, for this was a grave matter. You then recited the new breathing technique to him, explaining that it was derived from the creation breathing technique. Although it was an improvement upon the basic breathing technique, not quite reaching the level of the creation breathing technique, it was still several times more potent than the original. Chen Hao attempted to breathe according to your method, and he soon discovered that his rate of absorbing spiritual energy had indeed increased significantly. "Third brother, you truly are a genius." Chen Hao, overcome with excitement, lifted you off the ground in celebration. From that day on, Chen Hao practiced the new technique, and half a month later, he successfully broke through to the 7th grade sword disciple realm, achieving this feat months ahead of schedule. "I have broken through." Chen Hao's expression was ecstatic. He could hardly wait to announce the news to everyone in the Chen family. Seeing your second brother so joyful, you felt a surge of happiness in your own heart as well. Today, the Chen family estate was buzzing with life, for the men of the family had returned. You accompanied your mother to the ancestral hall early in the day. Chen Tianan stepped into the main hall first. He was the patriarch of the Chen family. That the Chen family could stand firm in Blackstone City was entirely due to this elder. "Grandfather," you and Chen Hao called out in unison. Chen Tianan looked upon his two grandsons. his wrinkled face breaking into a wide smile. He patted your head before noticing the fluctuations of spiritual energy surrounding Chen Hao, and asked with a chuckle, "Little Hao, when did you break through?" Chen Hao scratched his head and laughed. "Grandfather, your grandson just broke through yesterday." Hearing this, Chen Tianan was overjoyed, unable to contain his delight. "Very good, lad. At this rate, your chances of entering the profound sword sect are quite high." As Chen Yan and Chen Wei entered, you called out "Father" in a clear, bright voice. Chen Yan lifted you up, pinched your nose affectionately, and teased you. "Mother, you have raised him well, keeping him so fair and plump. He has certainly gained quite a bit of weight over this period." You blink in confusion, beams, unable to contain her joy. Chen Wei, also curious, asks what has everyone in such high spirits. Xun replies excitedly, "Husband, our son has just achieved a breakthrough to the 7th grade sword disciple realm." "What? 7th grade sword disciple? Not bad, boy. You truly are my son." Chen Wei cannot help but pat Chen Hao on the shoulder. Chen Yanan takes his seat as the head of the family, and says cheerfully, "Go buy Xiao Hao a bottle of body refining elixir. If he can reach the 8th grade sword disciple realm before the age of 12, his admission into the Xuanjian sect will be guaranteed." Xian is visibly moved upon hearing this. The body refining elixir is a 2nd grade spirit elixir, which provides the most effective support for initial body tempering, and is best utilized immediately after breaking through to the 7th grade sword disciple realm. Chen Wei wears a solemn expression as he replies, "Father, that would be improper. The body refining elixir is incredibly expensive, costing as much as our family's expenses for several months. You also require resources for your own cultivation." Chen Tianan waves his hand and sighs. "It is difficult for me to achieve further breakthroughs. These juniors are far more worthy of cultivation, for they are the future of the Chen family." And Chen Yan both nod in agreement. Haha, Chen Tianan laughs heartily again, then adds, "I will stay home for the next 2 days. And during that time, I shall teach you a few techniques." Chen Hao nods repeatedly with excitement. You two are filled with anticipation. However, Chen Hao suddenly recalls a vital matter. With a serious expression, he says, "Grandfather, the reason Sewer was able to break through so early is entirely due to the 3rd brother. He even improved our basic breathing technique." Hearing this, the entire family is stunned. Everyone turns their gaze toward you in unison. Chen Hao explains the improved breathing technique to everyone. Chenin ponders for a moment before saying in a deep voice, "This is no simple matter." After inspecting it, Chen Tianan discovers the new breathing technique is entirely flawless, and moreover, it far surpasses the old one. However, Chanan immediately warns with a grave expression, "Xiao Mu, the fact that you modified the breathing technique must not be known to outsiders, lest it invite unnecessary trouble." Everyone nods in agreement. Your innate talent is exceptional, but being so young, you require the family's protection. In high spirits, Chen Tianan says, "Good boy Xiao Mu, follow grandfather to the martial arts arena. Grandfather will teach you true sword techniques." Inside the martial arts arena, Tranthean Nam gripped his longsword. While Tran Hao and I stood nearby, our eyes locked firmly upon our grandfather. A sudden gust of pressure surged toward us. Tran Hao and I could not help but recoil. Tran Hao exclaimed in excitement, "This is the aura of a sword sect expert," as he stumbled back 5 or 6 paces before steadying himself. I watched our grandfather unsheath his blade. The emerald sword light ravaged the surroundings. It was the razor-sharp energy of the wood element. "Little ones, observe closely," Tran Tian Nam cautioned. We watched as he swung his longsword, the radiance of the blade blanketing the entire arena. The arena floor was littered with fallen leaves. At that moment, those leaves danced in the wake of our grandfather's sword, spiraling like a wandering dragon, accompanied by a sound akin to a bestial roar. As the 4 strikes of the dragon's roar 13 swords were executed, a cyan light soared into the heavens, and those fallen leaves surged upward like a green dragon ascending the sky, before finally dissolving into the void. Tran Hao and I were left utterly stunned. Tran Tian Nam sheathed his sword, laughing heartily as he asked, "How much did you understand from that display?" Tran Hao shook his head repeatedly, signaling he did not comprehend the technique, while I, having memorized the sword forms, asked our grandfather with a hint of doubt, "The dragon's roar 13 swords. Why did you only demonstrate 4 strikes?" "That is a long story." Tranthean Nam stroked his beard and explained with a smile, "I chanced upon this sword manual during my youth. Although it is an incomplete fragment, the power of these 4 strikes is no weaker than a low-grade spirit rank sword technique." I was suddenly enlightened. Sword techniques and weapons are divided into spirit and saint ranks, with each rank further split into low-grade and peak grade. Within the Tran clan, only Tranthean Nam possessed a low-grade spirit sword. Everyone else made do with common iron swords. Furthermore, sword techniques were guarded secrets that were never to be shared with outsiders. It was thanks to this incomplete technique that Tranthean Nam rose to prominence, barely carving out a foothold for the family in Blackstone City. On the arena floor, Tran Hao and I began to practice the forms. Memorizing the movements was not difficult. The true challenge lay in unleashing the latent power of the sword technique. My form was impeccable, and my sword swings carried significant weight. Tran Tian Nam's eyes lit up, sensing that I was not as simple as I appeared. He observed me intently, and suddenly he was struck with astonishment. When Tran Tian Nam strode forward, his age— truly a genius. Tran Tian Nam laughed heartily, sensing that the majority of the meridians in his son's body had cleared, and that his meridians were robust. A rare physique indeed. Trangon asked in confusion, "Father, what is the matter?" Tran Tian Nam quickly regained his composure. He would not let joy cloud his judgment, and said solemnly, "It is nothing. Tran Wei, when you go to purchase the body refining pills later, prepare a portion for Xiao Mu as well." Tran Yui was stunned for a moment before respectfully replying, "Xiao Mu is only 3 years old this year. Can he withstand the effects of a body refining pill? There may be side effects, but you are to do as I say." Tran Tian Nam's expression was resolute, leaving Tran Yui with no choice but to nod. "You two brothers, continue your training for now." Tran Tian Nam laughed boisterously. He had to go to the ancestral hall to burn incense and thank the ancestors for their blessing. That evening at the Great Tang ancestral residence, Tran Tian Nam instructed Tran Wei, "Distribute the body refining pills to the two brothers, and tell them to find an appropriate time to consume them." Tran Yu felt a pang of heartache as he divided the 2 body refining pills between his son and Tran Hao. These items cost more than half a year's income for the Tran family. They would have to endure several arduous journeys to recoup the losses. After dinner, Tran Tian Nam specifically kept Tran Wei and Tran Gan back, charging them both to take good care of Xiao Mu. He possesses extraordinary natural talent. At such a young age, he is already a 6th-rank swordsman. His future prospects are boundless. From now on, during our merchant escorts, one of you must remain at home. A 6th-rank swordsman. It was impossible. A 3-year-old 6th-rank swordsman? They had only heard of such prodigies appearing among the direct descendants of great clans. They never imagined the Tran family could produce such a peerless talent. "Do you think I would mistake such a thing?" Tran Tian's expression was grave. He did not want this matter to be exposed, which is why he only confided in Tran Gan and Tran Wei. On the other side, the child returned to his room carrying the body refining pill. "This is a body refining pill." He held the round, polished pill up, its rich medicinal fragrance permeating the system's store. A single body refining pill required 100 points. One could only imagine its rarity. He placed the pill into his mouth, and as it settled in his stomach, spiritual energy surged, flooding his limbs and bones. It began to temper his sinews, bones, and flesh. It was not until midnight that the medicinal effects of the body refining pill finally dissipated. By then, the vast majority of his body's meridians had been cleared. The spiritual energy within him was abundant, and his strength was several times greater than it had been before. Host, Tran. Realm, 8th-rank Sword Prince. 25. The check-in mission at Silver City offers a reward of 1,000 accumulation points. I could not help but mutter to myself, it has been 3 years. And finally, a new system mission has appeared. 1,000 accumulation points can be exchanged for 10 body tempering pills or a low-grade spirit rank sword manual. Such a reward is incredibly generous. Furthermore, Silver City is not far from Blackstone City, merely 100 miles away. But if I were to leave without permission, my parents would surely worry. It is better to wait for a future opportunity. With that, I picked up the wooden sword resting by my bedside. The spiritual energy within my body surged along my arm and infused into the wooden sword. The once lightweight wooden sword became heavy and rigid, its durability now no weaker than a steel blade. Perhaps it is because I have consumed the body tempering pill. Unable to sleep, practicing in the courtyard would only disturb my parents. Thus, I took the wooden sword to the martial arts arena, repeatedly practicing the 13 dragon roar swords. As the east began to brighten, a dragon's roar startled the members of the Chen family. The clear, resonant dragon roar echoed throughout the Chen manor. As he lay in bed, he muttered, "This is the dragon's roar. Could it be that the old master's swordsmanship has reached a new level of refinement?" Chen Mu also believed that the old master had achieved mastery of the dragon roar sword technique, hence the sound. Deep within the ancestral residence, Chen Tianan was jolted awake. He sat up, moved with extraordinary speed, and appeared at the martial arts arena in just a few breaths. In the arena, you stared at the wooden sword in your hand, puzzled as to why it had spontaneously emitted a dragon's roar. "The heaven favored one of the Chen family," Chen Tianan said, his hands trembling as he realized you were the one practicing. "Grandfather," you looked up and called out. Chen Tian's eyes welled up with tears. Overcome with emotion, he hurried to your side and sat down to examine your condition. Tianan's pupils constricted as he discovered that the spiritual energy within your body was several times denser than it had been yesterday. "Little Mu, have you consumed up the body tempering pill?" Chen Tianan asked. "Yes, I have." "Grandfather, after taking the pill, I felt a surge of energy and could not sleep. So I came to the martial arts arena," you replied honestly. The joy on Chen Tianan's face could not be concealed. At 3 years old, you are already an 8th grade sword king, more heaven-defying than the prodigies in the royal capital, but that is not the most significant part. What matters most is his comprehension. To have reached the realm of pure perfection in the 13 Dragon Roar swords in just one night, he has indeed mastered the 13 Dragon Roar swords to the realm of pure perfection. Shen Tianan, having cultivated for decades, had never attained such talent. It is a rarity in this world. Little Ma, from now on grandfather will provide you with as many spirit elixirs and medicinal herbs as you need. Tran Thien Nam patted your shoulder lightly, saying that your future was destined to be glorious and the Tran clan would rise because of you. You blinked as you listened. Tran Tien Nam had weathered many storms and understood the principle that a tree rising above the forest would inevitably be broken by the wind. Xiao Mu, from now on, do not easily reveal your extraordinary talent in front of others. Yes, grandfather. You nodded obediently. Tran Tien Tam looked at the wooden sword in your hand and said solemnly, grandfather will go and trade for a better sword for you. Thank you, grandfather, but the sword my eldest sister gave me is very good. You politely declined. This was a sword gifted to you by your eldest sister. You felt it served you well, so you had no intention of replacing it. Tran Tien Nam found this interesting and smiled kindly. You did not rest last night. Perhaps you should return to your room and rest for a while. Grandfather, I would like to eat something before I rest, you said, feeling a hunger in your stomach. Hearing this, Tran Tien Nam laughed heartily. Since I am free today, I shall take you into the city for a delicious meal. Tui Huang Lao was one of the few taverns in Blackstone City, and you and your grandfather sat down to eat beef noodles there. The Tran clan was not a wealthy family. Tran Thien Nam did not order extravagant delicacies, but instead treated his grandson to the finest beef noodles available. It smells delicious. You held a porcelain bowl that was larger than your own face. You held the bowl larger than your face and drank the broth until it was completely empty, having consumed 5 bowls of beef noodles in a row. Even the waiter was startled by this incredible appetite. Tran Tien Nam chuckled and asked, Xiao Mu, would you like to visit the escort agency to take a look? Yes, I would. You agreed to visit the agency, as you were curious to see what an escort agency looked like. You then made your way to the Thuan Fong escort agency, passing through the front hall. You arrived at the backyard, which was stacked high with various goods. Inside, laborers were busy carrying and loading cargo. A bald, burly man was busy taking inventory of the goods. The cargo consisted mainly of iron ore and grain. Tran Tien Nam pointed to the bald man and said, that is your Uncle Zhang, a 6th-rank swordmaster who has accompanied us on escort missions throughout the year. The bald man turned, flexed his arm muscles towards you, and greeted the chief escort enthusiastically. Chief, is this your grandson? He is truly a handsome lad. Tran Tien Nam nodded with a smile and asked, Zhongshan, how much work is there this time? Zhongshan shook his head with a bitter smile. There are only 3.5 wagons of cargo, and with White Silver City being quite a distance away, Baiyan City. Your eyes brightened at the name. Is that not where this mission is taking place? You looked at your grandfather with a coquettish tone. Grandfather Suer wishes to go to Baiyan City as well. Tran Tien Nam was momentarily stunned, while Zhongshan raised an eyebrow, speaking with a serious tone. Haha, escorting goods is not a pleasant journey. I still remember that young lad, Tran Hao, who insisted on following us on our escort missions. In the end, he barely made it halfway before crying and demanding to go home to his mother. He cried so hard to return to his mother that I was the one who had to take him back. Grandfather Suer will not cause any trouble for everyone. I simply wish to see the world. I have yet to step foot outside of Blackrock City, you said earnestly. And Tran Tien Nam had always doted on his grandchildren. It was he who had agreed when Tran Hao demanded to go on an escort mission previously. He pondered for a moment before speaking in a gentle tone. Very well, grandfather will take you on this escort mission. Once we return to the Tran residence, you must go to your room and rest. Tran Tien Nam sought out Tran Nam to discuss the plan to take you on the mission, telling your father, you must depart early tomorrow, and leave while Xiao Mu is still asleep. Tran suggested he did not want you to travel far. Firstly, out of concern for your safety, and secondly, he feared you would be a burden to the escort agency. Tran Tien Nam spoke solemnly. A man must keep his word. Since I have promised Xiao Mu, I will not retract my statement. I cannot disappoint the younger generation. Tomorrow, Tran Yui and I will handle the escort. You should remain at home to care for your wife, as she is currently with child. You may rest easy regarding Xiao Mu. We will take care of her. Since Tran Tien Nam had already made the arrangements, and he was the head of the clan, Tran Nam naturally had no objections. That evening, everyone gathered at the ancestral residence for a meal. Tran Tien Nam smilingly asked Xiao Hao, Xiao Mu wishes to accompany us on this escort. Would you like to come along for a few days? Grandfather, you all go ahead. I wish to focus on achieving a breakthrough before the end of the year. There was a flicker of hesitation in Tran Hao's eyes, but he simply did not want to waste any time. Tran Wei and Shu Yan nodded happily. Tran Yan reminded Xiao Mu, your father stay home to care for your mother. When you are out there, you must listen to your grandfather and uncle. Do not wander off, do you understand? You nodded heavily. There was a hint of anxiety in Tang Wan's eyes, but since the elder had already given his consent, she had no choice but to keep her concerns to herself. After the meal, you went for a walk with your mother. Tang Wan once again urged him to remain cautious and prioritize his safety. Do not worry, mother. Xiamu will be obedient, he replied. After strolling through the grounds, you returned to your chambers to select a movement technique for self-protection. With your heavenly Dao points running low, you could only afford a spirit-grade low-tier movement manual. You set your sights on the spirit-grade low-tier shadow step. Although it lacks offensive power, the footwork is as nimble as a ghost's. It is exceptionally effective for both escaping danger and launching surprise attacks. You successfully exchanged for the shadow step, consuming 200 heavenly Dao points. Having mastered the shadow step, you now possess the means to protect yourself should you encounter peril. You were not initially concerned about danger. With the clan present, surely nothing could go wrong. At the same time, atop the eternal frozen peaks of the Lingyun sect in the southern wasteland, Jiang Fuxian gazed toward the north, her ethereal beauty unparalleled. With starlight flickering in her eyes, she whispered, "Master has a mission to entrust to you." Jiang Fuxian turned around and spoke in a tranquil tone. A woman in a violet dress knelt on one knee not far away. Zhao Feiyan replied with a respectful expression, "Master, what mission is so important that I must descend the mountain myself?" Jiang Fuxian smiled faintly. She appeared before Zhao Feiyan and said softly, "I want you to descend the mountain to protect someone." As for who? Zhao Feiyan's eyes widened. She is Jiang Fuxian's only disciple, one of the 10 great prodigies of the Huang province, and the likely successor to lead the Lingyun sect. Zhao Feiyan looked on in astonishment, shocked that such a trivial matter would require her personal intervention. Jiang Fuxian spoke calmly. In Blackstone City of the northern wasteland resides Chen Mu. His natural talent is extraordinary, yet he is still quite young. We are to remain in Blackstone City and protect him for 3 years. Once he reaches the age of 7, bring him to the Lingyun sect to begin his cultivation. Rest assured, Master, Yanner guarantees the completion of this mission. She then soared into the sky, vanishing into the clouds in the blink of an eye. Early the next morning, you rose before dawn. With a wooden sword at your waist, you accompanied Chen Tianan to the transport agency and boarded a caravan, departing from the territory of Blackstone City. By twilight, the caravan made camp in the forest. Everyone prepared their meal before sunset, extinguishing the fires afterward to avoid attracting wild beasts. At dawn on the second day, before the mist had fully cleared, the caravan resumed its journey. As noon approached, the caravan suddenly came to a halt. You caught the scent of something peculiar. Tran Tianan shouted, "Do not panic." Not far away, a group of bandits charged out from the forest. There were over 20 of them, stirring up a massive cloud of dust with an imposing momentum. Tran Tianan's group braced themselves for battle. You furrowed your brows, never expecting that your first escort mission would immediately lead to an encounter with such formidable bandits. Leading the opposing force were 2 sword masters. The one-eyed man was a 3rd-grade sword master, holding a heavy blade and exuding an arrogant air. Beside him was a scarred man, a 2nd-grade sword master, his eyes filled with a malicious grin. Chuang Sun said in a low voice, "They are the Black Wind twin killers. I heard the Black Wind Ridge was destroyed by the Imperial Court. I never expected the Black Wind bandits to have fled to these parts." Tranny's expression was grave. Those opposite them were no common thieves, but the notorious Black Wind bandits of Huanshao. Although the opposition had 2 sword masters, they were only a 3rd grade and a 2nd grade, respectively. If the 2 joined forces, they could at most restrain our patriarch, but given their superior numbers, I fear this will be a brutal fight. Tran Tianan cupped his hands and said, "So it is the Black Wind duo. I have long heard of your esteemed reputations. I am Tran Tianan of the Thuan Fong Escort Agency. I humbly ask for your convenience." "Spare me the pleasantries," the bandit replied. You either leave your goods or you leave your lives." The one-eyed man spoke coldly, and Tran Tianan's face turned pale. He pulled a pouch of money from his chest and threw it directly to the one-eyed man. He then offered a forced smile. "It is a small business. I ask the 2 heroes to show some leniency. This is the toll fee. It is the customary tribute for the mountain bandits." The one-eyed man glanced at the gold and silver in the bag, his expression mocking as he said, "Today you prove yourself sensible. I will spare you all this once." As the bits spurred their horses away, the hearts of Tran Yu and his men felt particularly heavy. Chuang Sun asked in confusion, "Chief, why not fight them? Why coddle them like this? If we truly fought, our brothers would have nothing to fear." Tran Tianan shook his head and sighed. "Little Mu is still in the wagon. I feared it might be harmed. It is better to avoid unnecessary trouble than to seek it out. Rest assured your payment will not be short a single copper. I shall bear the cost of this loss myself." Chief of the escort, the others remained silent. After all, they all needed to earn a living to support their families. You clenched your fists. These bandits had made you realize a harsh truth. This is a world where the strong prey upon the weak. It is clear that one cannot survive without true power. Chen Mu sighed and remarked, I only fear that these bandits will return to trouble us again in the future. If there is a next time, I intend to ensure they never return home. Chen Tianan said with indignation. Zhangshan saw you clenching your fists, your gaze fixed upon the distant forest, and asked with a laugh, Boy, have you been frightened out of your wits? You shook your head. This time, you had caused your grandfather to suffer heavy losses. This shipment not only failed to turn a profit, but also required a significant amount of compensation. You must find a way to make up for this in the future. That afternoon, the caravan arrived at the Liu family manor. To your surprise, the Liu family manor was not located within the walls of Baiyin City. Instead, it was situated in the outskirts near Baiyin City. This meant you were unable to register your presence here. Liu family manor is a renowned sword-forging estate. Chief Chen, I truly thank you all for delivering the goods ahead of schedule. Today, I have prepared a banquet within the manor to entertain you all. Being personally welcomed by Manor Head Liu, an elder of advanced years, was an honor, and Chen Tianan replied, It is only what we ought to do. Chen Tianan replied with a smile. His face was full of warmth, showing none of the gloom caused by being robbed on the road. For an escort mission to encounter trouble is his responsibility. He would not let the client bear such a loss. Manor Head Liu had snow-white hair and wore a white robe. He was a master swordsmith, famous far and wide, capable of forging spirit weapons. He held a prestigious reputation in the Jianghu. He noticed your small stature, the wooden sword at your waist, and the straw hat you wore. Chief Chen, is this your grandson? Chen Tianan laughed as he replied, That is correct, this is my young grandson. His name is Chen Mu, Manor Head Liu said with a thumbs up. This child possesses an extraordinary aura. He will surely be a dragon among men in the future. Ha ha. Hearing this, Chen Tian could not stop smiling. He knew these were merely polite words. Upon entering the manor, a young girl with a ponytail came running over, calling out to her grandfather in a spoiled, affectionate tone. Manor Master Liu smiled and introduced her. Head Escort Chen, this is my granddaughter. Liu Xiaoxiao, Head Escort Chen. Liu Xiaoxiao stuck out her tongue, appearing quite mischievous and spirited. Manor Master Liu laughed and said, Xiaoxiao, this is Head Escort Chen's grandson. Why don't you take your little brother for a tour of the manor? Very well. Liu Xiaoxiao nodded, grabbed your hand, and said coquettishly, Little brother, big sister will take you to play. Liu Xiaoxiao attempted to pull you along, yet to her surprise, she could not move you. One must realize that, at 9 years of age, she was already a rank 6 sword apprentice, and since this was the Liu family manor, it was considered exceptionally safe. Chen Tianan chuckled softly. Little Mu, go and play with your big sister, but remember to mind her. Liu Xiaoxiao led you deep into the Liu family manor. The estate was vast. Liu Xiaoxiao showed you the sword forge and the sword cleansing pond, but you held no interest in such places. Afterward, Liu Xiaoxiao suggested taking you into the city to play, but you waved your hand in refusal, fearing that sneaking off to Silver City would surely result in punishment. Liu Xiaoxiao smiled and said, Rest assured, Silver City is very close to the Liu family manor. If we walk quickly, we can be back in half an hour at most. It really isn't far. You were still determined to go to Silver City, for that was the only place where you could register. Let's go, let's go. Besides, our grandfathers will be busy talking for quite a while. Liu Xiaoxiao led you out of the Liu family manor. The path was winding and rugged. Taking the small trail was indeed a faster way to reach Silver City. However, you hadn't walked for long before you involuntarily furrowed your brows. Your senses were far keener than an ordinary person's. A faint scent of blood hung in the mountain air, and you said in a low voice, Big Sister Liu, are there wild beasts in these mountains? Liu Xiaoxiao laughed and said, My grandfather has sprinkled the blood of exotic beasts in the vicinity. Wild beasts dare not approach this area. Furthermore, with me here, there is no need for fear, yet you felt that something was amiss. The stench of blood was drawing steadily closer. At that very moment, heavy, labored breathing echoed through the air. A massive gray-backed wolf emerged onto the mountain path. A scream rang out as panic washed over Liu Xiaoxiao's expression. Never in her life had she encountered a beast so terrifying. That great gray-backed wolf slowly advanced toward the two of you. It was only then that you noticed its front left paw was injured. It was a limping wolf. You urged Liu Xiaoxiao to flee, maintaining your composure as you roused her from her shock. She turned and fled, yet you remained standing in place, for you were certain that if both of you ran, the great gray-backed wolf would surely catch up. Drawing the wooden sword from your waist, your gaze turned resolute. You took a defensive stance as a light breeze swept through the mountain forest. The great gray-backed wolf, standing not far away, stared intently at you. Both sides were locked in a standoff. The moment you showed a hint of fear, the wolf would immediately pounce. You analyzed the bloodline of the great gray-backed wolf, calculating a way to victory by identifying its weaknesses. There was still a chance. You assessed your defensive options. The gaze of the great gray-backed wolf held a trace of trepidation. As if it had glimpsed something standing behind you, it slowly retreated, then vanished into the mountain wilderness. You exhaled in relief. Your back was drenched in cold sweat from facing the beast. This was the first time in your life you had encountered such peril. At Lu village, the elder learned of the wolf. Lu Xiaoxiao returned, running while sobbing. The master of Lu village spoke in a low voice. In our Lu village, how could there possibly be wolves? Lu Xiaoxiao spoke with urgency. I intended to take my younger brother to Baiyan City for a visit, but we unexpectedly encountered a great gray wolf in the mountains. That great gray wolf stood over 2 meters tall. Upon hearing this, Chen Tian bolted to his feet, and the caravan members nearby were struck with terror. Where is Xiao Mu? Is Xiao Mu still in the mountains? Lu Xiaoxiao choked back sobs. She was truly terrified, so she ran back to the village alone to seek help. Without another word, Chen Tianan lunged out of the Lu village gates. The master of Lu village hurriedly gave chase, shouting, "All of you, go and assist at once." The master of Lu village led his guards out of the village, sensing a catastrophe. Chen Wei's expression turned deathly pale. If something were to happen to Xiao Mu, he would have no face left to see Chen Yan and his wife. Chen Tianan's eyes were brimming with crimson fury and grief. Chen Tianan and the master of Lu village possessed the highest cultivation levels, so they surged ahead to lead the way. "Shu, you must be unharmed. Deep within the mountains and forests, I was walking back while eating wild fruit. Sensing a familiar aura, I hurriedly looked up to see Tranthian Nam leaping through the woods. Upon seeing that I was safe and sound, Tranthian Nam's eyes welled up with tears. Little Mu, my good grandson, it is a relief that you are unharmed. You nearly frightened me to death." "Grandfather," I said, scratching my head in embarrassment. "I have caused trouble for everyone once again." Tranthian Nam lifted me up to examine me. My clothes were soaked through. "You must have been terrified, were you not?" I nodded. "It is fortunate that you are safe. Such a thing must not happen again." Tranthianum did not cast any blame. Following closely behind, the master of the Luke estate asked with curiosity, "Look Tutu, where has the great grey wolf gone?" I answered honestly that it had left. The master of the Luke estate exclaimed in astonishment, "It has left? This lad has remarkable luck. To survive such a great disaster implies a blessed future ahead." Luke Tutu ran over. Seeing that I was uninjured, she embraced me, weeping. "I am sorry. I promise never to abandon you again." It did not matter to me. After all, Luke Tutu was still just a child. Afterwards, the group began searching for traces of the beast. Since wild beasts were not permitted near the Luke estate, the master of the Luke estate ordered his guards to disperse and comb through the forest. The master of the Luke estate turned toward Tran Thien Nam, cupping his hands in shame. "Chief Escort Tran, I apologize. My granddaughter has caused such immense trouble." I stepped forward to apologize, my voice sounding young and fragile. "Master Luke, it was my fault. I was the one who insisted on following Sister Luke to Baiyan City. It is enough that you're safe. You must both take this lesson to heart." Tran Thien Nam warned us. Luke Tutu and I both nodded heavily. Everyone returned to the Luke estate. After a meal, the Thuanfong escort agency group departed to return to Hakthi City. Luke Tutu saw the group off outside the estate. She said gently, "Little brother, do come back to visit again. Next time, I will personally take you to see Baiyan City." I nodded at her. Inside the estate, the master of the Luke estate sat in the main hall as a guard returned to report on the giant wolf incident. The middle-aged guard spoke respectfully. "Estate master, we could not locate the wolf, but we did discover signs of the giant wolf's activity. Based on the tracks, it was likely a 3-legged venomous wolf. Furthermore, its stature was abnormally massive. We also discovered several sets of skeletal remains. Among them there were clear marks of sword corpses being gnawed upon." Master Loke with a grave expression. "A nomadic wolf. Could it be one of the demonic wolves from the north? That is a creature that even sword corpses find troublesome. Even a wounded demonic wolf is not something an ordinary sword corpse can contend with. For a demonic wolf to appear within the northern wilderness, could it be an omen that a demonic tide is approaching?" Master Lu pondered and asked, "At the place where the child encountered the demonic wolf, were there any traces of combat?" Master Lu suddenly inquired. A rather improbable theory had just occurred to him. The middle-aged guard shook his head and replied, "Master, there were no traces of battle in the vicinity. It seems I was overthinking things." Master Lu smiled and shook his head. "She is merely a 3-year-old child, sitting upon an empty merchant carriage." Chen Tianan rode his horse closer to his grandchild and spoke in a deep voice, "Little Mu, tell grandfather exactly how that wolf departed." Chen Wei and Zhongshan were also deeply curious. The child answered honestly, "At that time I saw the giant wolf approaching and told elder sister Lu to run quickly." "But you did not run. Why did you not run?" Shen looked on with a perplexed expression, to which the child replied solemnly, "Because elder sister Lu certainly could not run as fast as I could." Haha, everyone was amused by the child's response. Chen Wei asked with curiosity, "And then what happened?" The child continued, When two warriors meet on a narrow path, the brave one prevails. Therefore I did not hide, but drew the wooden sword at my waist to confront it. After that, the giant wolf simply left. What a fitting sentiment. When two warriors meet on a narrow path, the brave one prevails. Upon hearing this, Tianan felt his blood surge with excitement. His grandchild at such a tender age already possessed such courage. When grown, they would surely be a formidable figure, a true hero emerging from youth. Little one, you possess the aptitude of a sword saint. Haha. Chen Mu looked on with admiration. Everyone gazed at the child with a newfound respect. With a confused expression, the child asked, "Grandfather, is this not the road back to Haishi City?" Chen Tian smiled and nodded, granting the child's wish. "We are going to Baiyan City for an excursion." "Thank you, grandfather." The child said happily, "This journey has already caused everyone quite a bit of trouble. Originally, I had intended to forego the trip to Baiyan City." Tran Tiannam knew his grandson still longed for Baiyan City, so he ordered the convoy to change course toward Baiyan City, as it was not far away. The group arrived safely at Baiyan City. Check-in at Baiyan City successful, received 1,000 points, completing the mission successfully. However, the new check-in location had not yet updated. Afterward, the group took a brief tour around the city before heading directly back to Haishi City. The journey there took nearly 2 days, while the return trip took only half a day. That night, they returned to the Tran family estate. This escort mission suffered not insignificant losses, and the young master had nearly met with disaster along the way. After returning, Tran Yui suggested, "Father, in the future, do not let the juniors accompany the ESC missions. Our family should establish proper regulations." Tranthian Nam nodded in agreement. Although it was merely a scare without serious consequences, Tranthian Nam still recounted the events to Tran Nam. The latter could not help but feel a lingering fear upon hearing the tale. "Tran Mu, you are not to follow them again in the future. After returning to the Tran family, you resumed your former life, going to the martial arts arena every day to practice the sword." Half a month later, host Tran Mu reached the late stage of the 9th rank sword disciple realm. Mission 820, check-in for the Xuanwang Cup prize. Superhuman body tempering pill. Over these past days, you used your check-in points to exchange for resources to cultivate, so your realm has progressed quite rapidly. Superhuman body tempering pill. This is an enhanced version of the standard body tempering pill, with effects far exceeding the ordinary. The body tempering pill can perfect one's physical constitution. The Xuanwang Cup in Heishi City can measure one's potential. Every year, a large number of juniors come to be evaluated. A few days ago, grandfather told your father to register you. In 2 days' time, you will be able to have your potential measured. I wonder if my potential is truly formidable. 2 days later, at the Heishi City Potential Assessment Tournament, the Xuanwang Cup stood tall on the high platform, while the surrounding square was already a sea of people. You followed your father, Tran Nam, toward the Xuanwang Cup, but strangely the fission did not activate. Could it be that one must touch the stele? Tran Hao also rushed over to join the excitement. At this moment, the examination began. Wang Xing watched as a boy of about 5 years old walked up to the Xuanwang Cup. He placed his hand upon the stone stele. The Xuanwang Cup emitted a faint yellow glow. The stone stele The radiance reached the 5th inscription. The middle-aged man beside the stone tablet nodded slightly and said with a faint smile, "Not bad, a 5th grade aptitude." The Wang family members beamed with satisfaction. The surrounding crowd erupted in murmurs of envy. Aptitude is divided into 9 grades. The eldest sister Shenxi possesses a 3rd grade aptitude. The second brother Chen Hao barely managed to reach a 4th grade aptitude. A 5th grade aptitude is already considered excellent in Blackstone City. If one possesses a 6th grade aptitude, with enough effort, they can join a sect. If it is a 7th grade aptitude, joining a sect is a certainty. The juniors took turns stepping onto the platform to test their aptitude. The highest result reached was only a 5th grade aptitude. Most of the juniors fell below a 3rd grade aptitude. Occasionally, a junior would manifest a 6th grade aptitude, which was enough to shock the entire assembly. After Chen Mu's name was called, he calmly stepped out from the crowd. Chen Yan, however, did not pay much mind to it. He believed that aptitude is innate, while true future success is determined by one's acquired efforts. Chen Tianan had once said, "I believe your aptitude is at least 5th grade." Chen Hao looked at his son with anticipation, while the middle-aged man glanced over, realizing that this child was different from the others. There was no trace of fear in his eyes. With a composed demeanor, he stepped onto the high platform and placed his small hand upon the Xuanwang stele. System notification. Xuanwang stele test successful. Obtained transcendent body refining pill. He felt a medicinal pill manifest within his chest. He retracted his hand and stared at the Xuanwang stele before him. A dense, brilliant golden light surged toward the heavens. The citizens of Blackstone City gathered near the Xuanwang stele gasped in astonishment. The blinding golden light rose incessantly, reaching the very pinnacle of the stone tablet. The middle-aged man's expression turned to shock as he exclaimed, "This is a supreme grade aptitude." Chen Yan swallowed hard, overcome with joy. He rubbed his eyes, struggling to believe the reality before him. The Chen family has produced a true dragon, a ninth-grade aptitude. Heavens above is a sword emperor about to emerge in our Blackstone city. This is a supreme-grade aptitude, a future filled with infinite possibilities. In the northern wasteland, such talents are few enough to count on one's fingers. Perhaps he could even become a sword saint, revered by 10,000 people. Test again, the middle-aged man said, regaining his composure and suspecting that the stone tablet might be malfunctioning. After the golden light faded, he placed his hand upon the stone tablet once more. It was that same blinding golden light. There was no mistake. It was indeed a supreme-grade aptitude. The entire Blackstone city was shaken, and within the crowd, Chen Hao chuckled. I knew all along that my third brother was a genius. Chen Nam's hands trembled. He was so overwhelmed with emotion that he could not find the words, and his eyes began to brim with tears. Yuan, our son is destined for a glorious future. I always knew our child possessed extraordinary talent. That day, when Chen Tianan took him to the Zuixiang restaurant for noodles, the boy managed to finish 5 bowls of beef noodles in one sitting. I had realized it long ago. 3 years before his birth, 10,000 swords resonated in unison. You scoundrel. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have nearly forgotten. No wonder such a strange phenomenon occurred that year. The surrounding crowd began to buzz with heated discussion. As the child retreated into the crowd, everyone instinctively stepped aside to clear a path for him. Every eye in the vicinity was fixed upon him. You shall be the pride of Blackstone City. An elderly man dressed in fine brocade approached Chen Nam. With a smile he said, Chen Nam, my granddaughter is 6 years old this year. As the proverb says, a wife 3 years older is a golden treasure. Why don't we arrange an engagement for them while they are still young? The man speaking was Zhao Qingfeng, a prominent figure of the Zhao family, one of the 3 great clans of Blackstone City, and a formidable 7th-rank swordmaster. Chen Nam hurriedly cupped his hands in a salute. Elder Zhao, this is not a decision I can make alone. I must consult my father. Please forgive me for this indiscretion. Zhao Qingfeng laughed heartily. Very well. When Chen Xiaotian returns, I shall personally visit your estate to propose the union. Suddenly, an elderly man in crimson robes with snow-white hair shouted loudly. Qing asked with annoyance, Tong Haichuan, you do not even have a granddaughter. Why are you here to stir up trouble? Tong Haichuan spoke with grave seriousness. I may not have a granddaughter, but I have a daughter. My daughter is 18 this year, and she is a peerless beauty. In the blink of an eye, what began as an assessment of potential had devolved into a gathering for marriage proposals. Chen Nam offered a polite salute to the seniors and quickly ushered his son back toward the Chen estate. Even after returning to the Chen family, visitors arrived in an endless stream to pay their respects, whispering, he is a hidden dragon. The future of the Chen family is destined to reach heights beyond our grasp. Everyone was desperate to curry favor with the Chen family at this very moment. There were others who, knowing full well their own granddaughters were not a match for the boy, approached Xu Yan to discuss marriage arrangements, hoping to wed their granddaughters to Chen Hao instead, thereby securing a favorable connection with the Chen family. For a time, the gates of the Chen estate were crowded with visitors. Even the city lord arrived to offer his congratulations, forcing the boy to hide away in his room. This state of affairs left Chen Yan quite troubled. Tang Yuan, upon learning that her son possessed a 9th-rank aptitude, was overcome with joy. Though she knew this was a blessing, she also understood it would invite a multitude of complications. The matter of marriage is of the utmost importance, Tang Yun cautioned. This is not a matter that can be decided carelessly. The husband and wife contemplated the betrothal made long ago, which they had previously deemed impossible to fulfill. Reflecting on it now, given your natural talent, perhaps you might one day be worthy of Zhang Fuxian. But as a couple, they are both people of great understanding. At best, you are currently nothing more than a fledgling dragon, and Zhang Fuxian is already a true phoenix reigning over the firmament. If you truly wish to be a match for her, you still have a very long road ahead. Not until late into the night did the Chen residents finally return to silence. The eldest sister-in-law, Xu Yan, also came to express her gratitude to Chen Yan. Her family had received several invitations concerning marriage arrangements, among which were not a few young ladies of excellent status and appearance. In the quiet of the night, Chen Yan and Tong Wan lay in bed, the two of them still discussing the events of that year. Husband, do you think the betrothal from back then could have been arranged by Zhang Fuxian herself? Previously I thought it impossible, but now I feel it might actually be true. With our son's extraordinary talent, I fear she has set her sights on him to be her future husband. Tang Wan smiled radiantly, adding, if she truly wishes to become a daughter-in-law of the Chen family, I could accept that. Chen Yan could not help but laugh, saying, my lady, would you even dare to refuse? How hateful. Why must you speak the truth so bluntly? Tang Wan nestled coquettishly beside Chen Yan. In the adjacent room, their son sat cross-legged upon the bed, drawing the extraordinary body-tempering pill from his robes. He consumed it directly, and vast amounts of energy surged into his limbs and meridians. His expression remained tense, his entire body feeling as if it were being carved by knives, while black smoke billowed incessantly from his form. 2 hours later, the meridians throughout his body were entirely cleared, and the spiritual energy finally converged in his dantian, forming a clear, crystalline stream. This was spiritual energy in its liquid state. After consuming the extraordinary body-tempering pill, he had not only cleared his meridians, but successfully condensed a spiritual spring within his dantian, stepping into the Swordmaster realm. Yet, the medicinal efficacy of the extraordinary body-tempering pill had not yet dissipated. His cultivation realm continued to rise, and by the following morning, he had completely absorbed the pill's essence, successfully breaking through to the 3rd rank of the Swordmaster realm. The strength gathered here is truly many times greater than before. At the break of dawn, a distinguished guest arrived to pay a visit. It was an elder from the Xuanjian sect. Within the borders of Hangzhou, the Xuanjian sect stands as the most formidable faction. For an elder to visit in person, it is clear just how highly the Xuanjian sect regards this matter. Han Fu arrived at the Chen family estate, and Chen Yan went out personally to welcome him. This man is a 6th-rank sword marca. Even City Lord Mu Dongliu would have to receive him with the utmost courtesy. Elder Han, please, step inside. Chen Yan offered a respectful salute, but Han Fu went straight to the heart of the matter. I have come today, because of your son. Our Xuanjian sect is prepared to exhaust every resource to cultivate him. Facing the olive branch extended by the Xuanjian sect, Chen Yan felt a wave of tension, unsure of how to respond. My child possesses supreme-grade potential. He deserves entry into a superior sect. Elder Han, my child is still young. Perhaps we should wait until Moer has matured before discussing this further. Chen Yan replied tactfully. Han Fu furrowed his brows and suddenly flicked his sleeves. Are you implying that the Chen family looks down upon the Xuanjian sect? Han Fu stood with his hands behind his back, his expression frigid. The aura of a sword marquis nearly forced Chen Yan to his knees on the spot. I dare not, I dare not. Chen Yan hurriedly cupped his hands in apology, his scalp prickling with dread. Even the great Yan dynasty would not dare offend the Xuanjian sect. How could the insignificant Chen family afford to provoke them? With my son's talent, he is fully capable of entering the pinnacle sects of the northern wastelands. If I agree to Han Fu's terms, my son will lose the opportunity for a better future. If I refuse Han Fu, the Chen family will offend the Xuanjian sect, and the consequences would be unimaginable. At that very moment, a streak of sword light descended outside the Chen estate, startling both me and Chen Hao, who were practicing sword arts in the martial arena. Chen Hao asked in confusion, "Third brother, did you see clearly what that was?" No, I could not see it clearly. Second brother, let us go and investigate. I suggested this, sensing a powerful cultivator and wishing to see for myself. Han Fu and Chen Yan looked toward the entrance as a woman in violet robes strode into the Chen estate. Zhao Fan exuded an air of cold arrogance. Upon seeing her, Han Fu was not merely surprised, but gripped by fear. That aura belonged to a sword king. Zhao Fan stepped before them, and Han Fu hurriedly lowered his head in salute. Chen Yan offered a respectful bow, saying, I am Chen Yan of the Chen family. May I ask the name of this esteemed senior? With an expressionless, icy face, Zhao Fan spoke. Zhao Fan of the Lingyun sect arrived specifically for Chen Mu. Han Fu's eyes widened in shock, for he had heard of Zhao Fan before. She was a peerless prodigy of the Lingyun sect, the direct disciple of the Sword Saint Jiang Fuxian, a future candidate for sect master, and one of the 10 great prodigies of the Huang prefecture. The Lingyun sect was located a vast distance from the Heng prefecture. Yesterday, the Xuanjian sect had issued an order to seal all information. How could the Lingyun sect possibly know that a prodigy with top-tier innate talent had appeared in Blackstone City? Even for a Sword King powerhouse, it should have been impossible to reach Blackstone City with such speed. Could it be that they had discovered this long ago? Chen Mu truly lived up to being the strongest force in the Huang prefecture? Han Fu trembled in his heart, not daring to utter another word. Upon hearing she hailed from the Lingyun sect, Chen Yan hurriedly stepped forward to welcome her. So it is Fairy Zhao. Little Mu is currently practicing his swordplay at the martial arts arena. Please, come inside. You and Chen Hao have arrived just in time to join the festivities. Zhao Fan's gaze fell upon you the moment she arrived. Her eyes flickered slightly as she spoke coldly. This is somewhat interesting. Senior Han, a third-rank swordmaster, is this child truly only 3 years of age? The two brothers walked to Chen Yan's side. This is my son, Chen Mu, and this is Chen Hao, the son of my eldest brother. Chen Yan introduced them with a smile. Even without Chen Yan speaking, both of them knew exactly who Chen Mu was. A 3-year-old third-rank swordmaster. One could not find another like him in the entirety of the Heng prefecture. This is absurd, Han Fu cursed inwardly, finding the situation entirely irrational. A swordmaster at 3 years of age. If this child were placed in the Xuanjian sect, the Xuanjian sect might even be able to command the entire Huang prefecture. It was a pity that the Lingyun sect was a colossal monster. Otherwise, the Xuanjian sect would have been tempted to snatch the child away. Chen Mu, standing nearby, overheard their conversation. He could not help but mutter to himself, "That old man is even more formidable than grandfather. He was able to see through my cultivation. I must find a way to conceal my aura in the future." You continued to observe Zhao Feiyan. She gave you a feeling of unfathomable depth, appearing even more dangerous than the old man beside her. Chen Yan spoke respectfully. "I invite both of you to enter. I will go and prepare some tea." Han Fu offered a wry smile. "I still have matters to attend to. Take this spiritual token as a token of our first meeting. It represents the authority of the Xuanjian sect in the Heng prefecture, and can be used as an imperial decree." Han Fu knew that Chen Mu could not join the Xuanjian sect, and that his future was limitless, so he wished to bestow a favor upon the Chen family. After Han Fu departed, Zhao Feiyan instructed Chen Nam to arrange a room for her so she could stay. At the same time, on the martial arts practice field, Chen Hao said, "Third brother, the Lingyun sect is the most powerful force in the Huang province. The four great sects of our northern wilderness are nothing more than younger brothers when standing before them." You nodded slightly, wondering to yourself if she had been sent by Jiang Fuxian to protect you. If that were the case, then this fiancé of yours was being overly attentive. The two brothers continued their sword practice on the field. Time passed swiftly. By dusk, Chen Nam and Zhao Feiyan were conversing in the main hall. Zhao Feiyan expressed her intent. "My master has ordered me to protect Chen Mu, and once he turns 7, I am to take him to the Lingyun sect to cultivate. Do you have any objections?" "None at all, none at all." Chen Nam replied with a beaming smile. The Lingyun sect was a pinnacle sect in the Huang province. If Chen Mu could go there to cultivate, he would naturally be more than willing to trouble Fairy Zhao. "May I ask who is the master of Fairy Zhao?" The sect master, Jiang Fuxian Zhao Feiyan, replied with a look of pride. Chen Nam was shocked, so it was indeed Jiang Fuxian. Could that marriage contract truly have been arranged by her? Seeing the astonishment on Chen Nam's face, Zhao Feiyan chuckled softly. "Chen Mu is gifted with exceptional talent. Who knows, perhaps one day he might even become my junior fellow apprentice." And Chen was left momentarily stunned. Did Jiang Fuxian intend to take Chen Mu as a disciple, or did she wish for Chen Mu to be her fiancé? Although he possessed extraordinary talent, the sect master did not take disciples lightly. Nevertheless, entering the Lingyun sect would certainly provide access to a vast amount of resources. Zhao Feiyan's eyes brimmed with pride. She was the sole disciple of Jiang Fuxian. On the martial arts field, as Chen Hao and Chen Mu practiced their swordsmanship, a terrifying aura suddenly descended upon the area. Both were frozen in place, unable to move. How formidable, what a powerful aura. Chen Mu looked toward the approaching Zhao Feiyan. Zhao Feiyan spoke with a cold indifference. To possess this level of cultivation at all, Tran Mok looked toward Tran Hao, saying, "My second brother teaches me, and grandfather also instructs me in sword techniques." Tran Hao scratched his head, feeling bashful, and Zhao Feiyan looked slightly surprised, then said in a cold tone, "For the next few years I shall remain in the Tran family. Without my explicit permission, you are forbidden from leaving the Tran family estate." Tran Mok nodded slightly. Did he really need to ask for her leave to step outside from now on? Though Tran Mok was unhappy, he dared not voice any objection. There was no other way. In this world, strength is supreme. As night fell, Tran Mok returned to his quarters to rest. He browsed the secret techniques available in the system mall, eventually discovering a concealment technique known as the Spirit Concealment Art. A low-grade spirit tier secret technique costing 700 heavenly Dao points. It is capable of masking one's internal spiritual power, as well as sealing one's aura. He exchanged for the Spirit Concealment Art, consuming 700 heavenly Dao points. When combined with the after-image steps, the Spirit Concealment Art would allow him to move through the night undetected. Host: 3rd rank Swordmaster, early stage. Heavenly Dao points, 124. No tasks available, no check-in available. It seemed he would have to return to a tedious cultivation grind. Tran Mok lay on his bed to rest, his breathing technique now integrated into his very rhythm, allowing him to absorb spiritual energy even while asleep. Late in the night, he caught the scent of strong spirits, without him realizing when. Zhao Feiyan had entered his room. The room was filled with the fragrance of wine. Tran Mok opened his eyes slightly, and using his peripheral vision, he saw Zhao Feiyan standing right beside him. Zhao Feiyan's face was flushed from intoxication, her features exquisite, with a high straight bridge to her nose. Even at this close proximity, not a single blemish could be found. In the dead of night, what business does she have in my room? Tran Mok whispered inwardly, wondering if Zhao Feiyan had become muddled from her drinking. Since you are awake, stop pretending to be asleep. Zhao Feiyan's voice was cold. Tran Mok's breathing suddenly faltered, unable to escape Zhao Feiyan's sharp gaze. He had no choice but to open his eyes and speak in a low voice. Fairy sister, is something the matter? Upon returning, I noticed the spiritual energy in your room was quite dense, so I came to investigate. Zhao Feiyan said this while reaching out toward Chen Mu. Fairy sister, what are you doing? Mu's eyes widened, unsure of how to react, as she coldly replied, You fool, I am merely checking your physical condition. As she observed Chen Mu's breathing pattern, she noted that this breathing technique could not be considered particularly powerful, yet the spiritual energy surrounding the room was truly intense, and his meridians were exceptionally robust. Zhao Fan furrowed her brow slightly. He must possess some rare, unique constitution, which explained why the master held him in such high regard. The night grew late and Zhao Fan rose slowly, stating languidly, "Rest now." Continued to rest, still maintaining his breathing technique, and since Zhao Fan stood guard over the Chen residence, Chen Mu usually practiced his swordsmanship in the martial arts arena, rarely catching a glimpse of Zhao Fan. She remained inside her room most of the time, and it was unclear what she was doing within. She only emerged when it was time to purchase wine. As a Sword King expert truly have no need to practice the sword for 5 consecutive days. Shortly thereafter, Chen Tianan returned to Blackstone City with the escort agency's men, and no sooner had they entered the city than they were surrounded by several clan heads, all of whom had come to discuss marriage engagements. Chen Tianan quickly realized the nature of their intentions. He had assumed his grandson possessed, at most grade 7 aptitude, yet he never imagined it would be grade 9, the legendary supreme grade. One must understand that for the past 100 years in the Great Yan dynasty, the highest aptitude recorded had only been grade 8. Therefore, the matter ultimately rested on the child's own wishes. "My grandson is still young. Let us speak of this again when he has matured." Chen Tianan tactfully declined. Though the journey home consisted of only 2 streets, yet it took Chen Tianan a full 2 hours to traverse them. He had lived in Blackstone City for several decades, yet he had never received such treatment before. Chen Mu's heaven-defying aptitude brought immense honor to the Chen family. Upon arriving home, Chen Tianan immediately summoned Chen Yan to the ancestral residence to deliberate. "Chen Yan, what are your thoughts regarding little Mu's marriage prospects?" Tianan said in a deep voice. Chen Yan replied with a grave expression, "Father, it would be best if we did not interfere in this matter. If he finds a woman who truly resonates with his heart in the future, regardless of her background, I will support him." Chen Tianan nodded and said in a deep voice, "That is, Mu is a dragon among men, and in the future, he will surely soar above the 9 heavens. We cannot bind him to us. Perhaps one day he might even wed the saintess of a great sect and bring glory to our ancestors." Chen Tianan stroked his beard, his face glowing with unmistakable pride. Chen Chen then said respectfully, "Father, the Lingyun sect has sent a disciple to the Chen family to protect Mu, and it is even a Sword King expert." "What? Where is he?" "I have arranged for him to stay in Shenxi's quarters." Chen Tianan immediately went to pay a visit. Zhao Feiyan had been worrying that Chen Mu might invite trouble once his reputation grew, but she did not expect to meet a noble guest from the Lingyun sect at the martial arts arena. Chen Mu was there as usual to practice his swordsmanship. However, aside from his second brother, several young girls had appeared, all of them watching Chen Hao practice. Chen Mu frowned slightly, quickly realizing what was happening. They were clearly trying to force a childhood sweetheart upon him. Chen Mu quickly found an excuse to leave the martial arts arena. He had no desire to be entangled with these young girls. In a flash, Chen Mu achieved a breakthrough to a 5th-rank swordmaster, though he felt his cultivation speed had slowed significantly. Yet, he was unaware that he had already reached a height that his peers could hardly hope to follow. To be a 5th-rank swordmaster at 3.5 years old, such individuals could be counted on one hand throughout the Great Yan dynasty, and even Zhao Feiyan was visibly moved. To have such achievements at such a young age. He was a match for her own talent when she was his age. Whenever Chen Mu met Zhao Feiyan, he would ask for her guidance regarding his cultivation, but she adamantly refused to answer. If it were not for the mission assigned by Zhang Fuxian, Zhao Feiyan would never have come to Blackstone City, let alone consider teaching Chen Mu how to wield a sword. She had not come here to serve as a wet nurse. At dusk, everyone gathered for a meal at the ancestral home. Chen Tianan laughed and said, "The end of the year is approaching, and the City Lord's mansion will be hosting a martial arts tournament for the younger generation." Chen Hao rubbed his hands in anticipation. The mission required him to check in at the final arena of the Black Rock City Martial Arts Tournament. The mission reward was the Great Spirit Gathering Pill. Upon hearing the mission update, Chen Mu was stunned, especially since the reward was the 4th grade Great Spirit Gathering Pill. With a point value of full 1,000, the mission's difficulty was significantly high, requiring him to make his presence known at the final arena of the Black Rock City tournament. Does it expect me to reach the finals? Chen Mu mused to himself. He had never crossed swords with anyone before, nor did he know the true extent of his own capabilities. To enter the finals, his strength would undoubtedly need to be among the elite of Black Rock City. He was still unaware of the collective strength of the younger generation in Black Rock City. Chen Mu looked up, his gaze resolute, and said, "Grandfather, I also wish to participate in the martial arts tournament." Everyone who heard him burst into laughter. Chen Wei reminded him that those participating were all older youths. I am still young, but I want to test myself, Chen Mu pleaded with his uncle, his eyes filled with determination. Chen Tianan, having previously verified Chen Mu's cultivation and knowing his exceptional talent, smiled and said, "Go and have some fun. After all, it is just a tournament for the younger generation." He had initially wanted to prevent Chen Mu from revealing his talents too early, but with Zhao Feiyan now present in the Chen family, it was time for a prodigy like Chen Mu to begin tempering his skills. Chen Yan did not stand in his way either. He had heard Han Fu claim that Chen Mu was a swordmaster, and after personally verifying that he was a third-rank swordmaster, that was all a month ago. Now, Chen Mu had already reached the 5th rank of a swordmaster. Lately, Chen Yan found it increasingly difficult to discern the true depth of Chen Mu's cultivation. He felt it improper to ask directly, as it would be quite embarrassing if he could not fathom his own kin, yet he knew that even a third-rank swordmaster could easily crush the other youths of Blackrock City. Chen Mu was still young and lacked practical combat experience. This tournament was an excellent opportunity for growth. Chen Yan had no objections. It was time for him to undergo some trial by fire. The next day, Chen Yan went to the city lord's mansion to register Chen Hao and Chen Mu. The steward of the mansion was immediately astounded. By now, everyone knew that a 3-year-old Chen Mu intended to compete in the tournament. The news that Chen Mu was to participate spread rapidly throughout the city. The number of participants this year increased significantly, all driven by the desire to defeat Chen Mu. It would surely serve as a grand feat to boast about in the future. Regardless of age or gender, the citizens of Blackrock City eagerly awaited the tournament organized by the city lord's mansion, curious to see if this little prodigy truly possessed 3 heads and 6 arms. 3 days later, the Heishai City martial arts tournament officially commenced. Chen Mu arrived before the door to Zhao Feiyan's chamber. He knocked lightly and called out in a respectful voice, "Fairy. Big sister, today I must enter the city to participate in the competition. Is it permissible for me to depart?" Zhao Feiyan replied in a detached tone. Just as Chen Mu was about to leave, he turned back to ask, "Fairy, big sister, will you not be attending?" "How tedious. It is not worth wasting my time." Zhao Feiyan spoke coldly. What a proud and stubborn personality. Chen Mu shook his head slightly. Standing before her room, he could catch the scent of fragrant wine, and the surrounding spiritual energy was exceptionally dense. At the City Lord's Manor Martial Arts Arena, there were 8 combat platforms erected. The venue was capable of accommodating thousands of spectators. Although it was still early, the place was already a vast sea of people. City Lord Mu Donglu sat upon the high dais. He was the only sword marquise-level powerhouse within Heishai City. To his left sat an elderly woman dressed in white robes. Beside the old woman stood a young girl. Her name was Shui Lingling. "Elder Bai, you have traveled a great distance to be here. Today this junior has many responsibilities to attend to and cannot offer proper hospitality. I hope you two will forgive me," Mu Donglu said, bowing in apology. Bai Sufi smiled faintly and replied with indifference, "City Lord Mu, there is no need for such formalities. I heard that a once-in-a-millennium genius has appeared in Heishai City. I came specifically to witness it for myself. I hear he is even participating in today's tournament." Mu Donglu nodded. "That is correct. It is said he is only 3 years old. For one so young to dare enter the martial arts tournament is truly an unprecedented occurrence. This old man shall be able to broaden his horizons today. I trust you feel the same, madam?" The young girl, Shui Lingling, had 2 long braids and eyes that were large and bright. Her features were delicate, and she was dressed in a dress interwoven with green and white. The old woman chuckled. "Linger, you must remain humble." Shui Lingling pouted in displeasure. Chen and Chen Hao arrived at the backstage area, which featured a direct path leading to the martial arts arena. All others were seated in the spectator stands to watch the competition. Not long after, the tournament began at the City Lord's Manor. Everyone backstage was observing Chen Mu with great interest. Chen Hao patted Chen Mu lightly on the shoulder and said with a simple smile, "Third brother, the most important thing is the experience. Do not be discouraged even if you are eliminated in the first round." Tran Mok replied with a smile. Although Tran Hao practiced swordsmanship with Tran Mok and knew his third brother possessed extraordinary talent, he remained unaware of his true strength. Tran Mok had never once engaged in a duel with anyone. The stage steward spoke in a stern voice. "You must use the Qingwu Feng training swords issued by the City Lord's Manor. On the tournament stage, you are to strike until you reach the limit. Absolute recklessness and lethal blows are strictly prohibited." "Understood," the group of youths replied in unison. Tran Mok spoke in a clear, resonant voice. "Uncle, may I use my own wooden sword?" The middle-aged steward laughed heartily and said, "Very well, a wooden sword is certainly permitted, though it puts you at a severe disadvantage." "Are you certain you wish to use a wooden sword?" "Yes, I am certain." Mok wore a radiant smile, showing no trace of anxiety on his face. The other juniors nearby could not help but burst into laughter. As the standard iron swords weighed over a dozen caddies, they assumed Tran Mok would struggle even to lift one. Shortly after, the match list was announced. There were a total of 127 contestants, and Tran Mok was granted a special exemption to advance directly to the second round. Perhaps this was a deliberate arrangement by City Lord Mu Donglu, intending for Tran Mok to remain on the stage for a longer duration, as everyone was eagerly anticipating his performance. If he were eliminated too early, it would surely be a disappointment to all. It was better to let him conceal his true capabilities for one more round. A bell tolled, and the martial arts tournament officially commenced. The gaps in strength between the combatants in the first round were vast, and as the matches concluded rapidly, Thuy Ling Lin pouted in boredom. The old man said patiently, "Linger, do not be impatient. The minor geniuses of Feishi City have yet to take the stage." City Lord Mudonglu smiled and remarked, "This time, after registration, one contestant was granted an exemption. Tran Mok is still young, which is why I permitted him this courtesy. Entering the second round, Tran Mok will appear on stage number 1, which is closest to us. Should he encounter any danger, I will be able to intervene in time." "I am relieved to hear that, Master Tran. My thanks to City Lord Mu." Tran Tian Nam spoke with a respectful bow of gratitude. Mu Donglu appeared much younger than Tran Tian Nam, yet he was already over 100 years old. The lifespan of a powerful sword marquis can reach up to 300 years, and the greater one's strength, the longer one's natural lifespan. Neither Tian Nam nor Tran Tian and Tran Hum were not at all worried about Tran Mok. With his current cultivation level, as long as he performed at his standard, victory would be easily within his grasp. At that moment, a middle-aged man dressed in brocade robes appeared on the high platform, and Mu Donglu hurried to stand and welcome him. "Marquis of Hongduang, your presence honors us. Please forgive my failure to receive you from afar." Tran Tian Nam and the others also rose to their feet upon hearing his arrival. Only Bai Su and Shui Lingling remained seated on the high platform. They had no interest in mundane nobility or worldly power. The Marquis of Hangduang, who governed Hangshao as a 7th-rank sword marquis, was a figure whom even the elders of the profound sword sect had to treat with deference. In Hangshao, he reigned with the authority of a sovereign. The Marquis of Hangduang, possessing an air of noble dignity, chuckled and replied, "There is no need for such formalities. I have come on behalf of the king to witness the exceptional talents of our great Yen dynasty." "Am I late?" Mu Donglu laughed obsequiously. "Not at all. Not at all. The young ones are about to take the stage. Marquis, they are the family members of Tran Mok." As Mu Donglu introduced everyone, Tran Tian Nam of the Tran family bowed his hands and spoke. "Of the Thuan Fong escort agency." Tran Nam pays his respects to the Marquis of Hangduang. The Marquis of Hangduang smiled and waved his hand. "No need for formalities. Let us first observe the competition." A moment later, Tran Mok stepped out from the backstage, instantly igniting the atmosphere of the martial arena. The commoners in the stands cheered, and every gaze in the arena converged upon him. He was the very same Tran Mok, a 9th-rank root talent rarely seen in 1,000 years. Truly, a formidable child. Look, he carries a wooden sword at his waist, while all the other juniors wield real steel. Anyone else using a wooden sword would be perceived as grandstanding, but seeing Tran Mok with one, everyone felt it was entirely fitting. A child of his age is, after all, expected to play with wooden swords. Tran Mok walked with a steady gait, entirely unperturbed by the deafening roar of the crowd. He marched directly toward the number 1 stage, neither arrogant nor impatient, displaying a composure far beyond his years. That was Bai Su's first impression. Even without his peerless root talent, this child was likely far from simple. Shui Lingling pouted, "Grandmother, I don't see what makes him so impressive." Bai Su shook her head and advised earnestly, "Just because he is not impressive now, does not mean he will not be in the future. Haichai City is merely his starting point. A dragon hidden in the deep, destined to soar into the heavens," the Marquis of Hongduang mused while observing Tran Mok. He frowned slightly, finding himself unable to discern Tran Mok's cultivation level, and could only assume he was a sword disciple below the 7th rank. A sword disciple below the 7th rank, with internal spiritual energy so refined and hidden that even a powerhouse found it difficult to measure. For him, participating in this competition might be overexerting himself. Marca Hongduang smiled slightly, noting that there were already participants who had attained the rank of swordmaster. Tran Tian Nam replied with a calm smile, "Participation is what matters. It is an excellent opportunity for tempering oneself. Truly a rare chance." Marca Hongduang did not hold high expectations for Tran Mok. Tran Mok's opponent was a 12-year-old youth, a 7th-grade sword disciple, who, however, appeared rather nervous, as the entire audience had turned their attention toward them. The youth gripped his steel sword tightly upon the stage in his anxiety. Tran Mok drew the wooden sword from his waist, causing the spectators' gasps to grow louder. High upon the viewing platform, Thuy Lin Lin exclaimed, "Another wooden sword? Has he come here to play the jester?" Tran Mok spoke calmly. "Tramley Tran Mok," the youth replied timidly. "Tight family, tight dung." As the gong resonated, the match commenced. Tran Mok wasted no words and seized the initiative, charging toward Tight Dung with his wooden sword. There was no technique displayed. It was merely a basic sword strike. Tight Dung hastily raised his sword to parry, but a tremendous force caused his arm to tremble violently. The steel sword in his hand was instantly knocked away, and his entire body was sent flying off the dueling stage. Tran Mok wins. The official in charge announced in astonishment, a victory in a single strike. Tight Dung was left completely bewildered, while the surrounding spectators stood with mouths agape. Tran Mok had used a wooden sword to defeat a 7th-grade sword disciple with a single blow. Was this truly just a 3-year-old child? Marka Hong Duong said in a low voice. That explosive force is at least that of an 8th-grade sword disciple, perhaps even a sword master. I underestimated him when I thought Tiat Dung lost only due to a difference in raw strength. Marcus Hang Duong nodded slightly. It seems even you can be mistaken about someone at times. Bak analyzed, to confront a steel sword head-on using only a wooden one, his cultivation level must certainly not be weak. And yet bring about such astonishment is truly remarkable. In the 3rd round of the tournament, Tran Mok faced the 8th-grade sword disciple, Triu Tai. Triu Tai curled his lip, rotating the steel sword in his hand as he said excitedly, "My luck is truly excellent to have encountered you." He was aware that Tran Mok possessed a supreme-grade cultivation foundation. In the future, surpassing him will be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This is the only opportunity of a lifetime. If he wins, it will be a legacy to boast about forever. The match began. Without uttering a word, Zhao Tai lunged toward Chen Mu, swinging his iron sword with the force of a whirlwind. This strike carried immense weight. The onlookers were struck with horror, knowing that a direct hit would result in death or shattered bones. Zhao Tai had no intention of holding back, yet high upon the viewing platform Chen Tianan remained composed, showing no signs of worry. With Donglu and the other sword attendant experts present, nothing untoward could possibly occur. Facing such a ferocious onslaught, Chen Mu did not evade, choosing instead to meet the attack head-on with his own sword. The spectators broke into a cold sweat on Chen Mu's behalf. That was Zhao Tai's most powerful strike. To parry it head-on, even a 9th-grade sword apprentice would suffer grave consequences. A violent clash of metal rang out, leaving Zhao Tai's arm numb. The entirety of the force rebounded back upon him. His iron sword was sent flying, and Zhao Tai was forced to retreat several steps. I concede. Zhao Tai took the initiative to admit defeat. His face was filled with utter shock, a mere 3-year-old child, yet possessed of such terrifying strength. Chen Mu wins, truly excellent. Indeed, he was blessed with extraordinary talent. The crowd erupted in a frenzy. Everyone was eager to see just how far Chen Mu could advance today. Chen Tianan and Chen Yan applauded in approval. Chen Wei laughed heartily. This lad hides his depths well. Even I did not know he was this formidable. Bai Su observed not only Chen Mu, but also the reactions of the Chen family, realizing they were already aware of his capabilities. As Chen Mu advanced into the round of 16, Chen Hao behind him felt the crushing weight of pressure. The 3rd brother is talented. This is far too strong. I cannot afford to lose face. Breaking into the top 16 was already a feat in itself. When it was Chen Hao's turn to step onto the stage, he fought a bitter battle of over 100 exchanges before narrowly securing his victory. Chen Tian and others encouraged him. A fine lad, well fought. Chen Wei was very satisfied with his performance. Reaching the top 16 was, after all, no small achievement. Everyone who remained in the tournament was an expert of the 8th grade or higher. Chen Mu's opponent for this round was the 14-year-old swordmaster, Yang. This is a legendary swordmaster of true renown. One wonders if Chen Mu can continue his winning streak. It is highly unlikely. He is a swordmaster after all. A 3-year-old swordmaster. Do you honestly believe that is possible? Yang Ming possesses the strength required to seize the championship. Chen Mu's luck in this round is rather unfortunate. The spectators all around were whispering in a heated discussion. No one held Chen Mu in high regard, because his opponent was simply too formidable, with strength that far exceeded that of a sword disciple. Bai Su and the Marquise of Hongyang watched the arena intently. Whether or not Chen Mu is truly a swordmaster will be revealed by the outcome of this match. On the stage, the two exchanged their names before Yang Ming assumed his stance, his aura radiating outward to envelop the surroundings. Chen Mu held his wooden sword in one hand. He felt there was no longer any need for concealment. It was better to reveal his true strength. Chen Mu's robes fluttered in the wind, and his overwhelming aura instantly suppressed the presence of Yang Ming. Holding the wooden sword in one hand, he calmly gestured for his opponent to make a move. The entire arena erupted in shock. High up in the gallery, Mo Donglu and the other sword marquise-level powerhouses widened their eyes, staring at the teacup Bai Su was holding. The teacup never reached his lips as he tremblingly exclaimed, as expected, a 3-year-old swordmaster. He had previously suspected Chen Mu might be a swordmaster, but he could not be certain until this very moment. Bai found it truly difficult to believe. He had seen young prodigies reach the rank of swordmaster at such an age before, but those children were always born into prominent clans or prestigious sects. How could a minuscule clan like the Chen family cultivate a swordmaster? The Marquis of Hongyang's eyes sparkled, marveling that this was truly a peerless genius, one rarely seen in 10,000 years. Heaven truly blesses the great Yan dynasty. Chen Tianan took a sip of his tea. Before Chen Mu and Yang Ming could exchange blows, the match on the adjacent stage had already concluded. Chen Hao was defeated by the 9th-ranked sword disciple Sun Yao. Reaching the top 16 is already a commendable feat. There are quite a many older contestants this year. Mo, Donglu said with a smile. Chen Tianan nodded in agreement. Xiao Hao performed very well today. Now we shall watch Xiao Mu to see just how far he can go. Shui Lingling, who had long held Chen Mu in contempt, finally fell silent, struck by the shock of the moment. A 3-year-old swordmaster, no one could fathom what level he might truly possess. On the arena, 2 distinct auras collided, sending sharp gusts of wind surging in all directions. Yang Ming spoke in a cold tone, warning his opponent to prepare himself. Gripping his iron sword, he moved with lightning speed, closing the distance in the blink of an eye. Though his iron blade lacked a sharp tip, a formless sword chi rose from it. That surge of sword chi shrieked through the air. Chen Mu parried with his wooden sword, which emanated an equally formidable, invisible sword chi. As the sword chi clashed, a fierce gale erupted, howling across the stage. Their weapons locked, and their figures blurred as they traded blows. For several moves, they remained evenly matched. Chen Mu did not fall into a disadvantage. In both speed and raw strength, he proved no weaker than the 2nd-grade swordmaster Yang Ming. The audience gasped in succession, while the powerful sword sovereigns observing from the high platform lavished praise upon Chen Mu. Truly remarkable. To think he is no weaker than a 2nd-grade swordmaster. A 3-year-old swordmaster is indeed a rarity in this world. Suddenly, Yang Ming's sword style turned aggressive, resembling a wild beast pouncing amidst a howling storm. Experienced elders in the crowd recognized the technique. Remark in hushed tones, "This is the Silver Fox sword technique of the Yang clan, hailed as a peak mortal-grade manual. This technique is notoriously fierce. Being that Chen Mu is still but a child, it is feared he will struggle to withstand it." Chen Yan could not hide his anxiety. Yang Ming had practiced for years, and his mastery of the sword technique had reached a state of pure, seamless perfection. Chen Tianan, however, wore an expression of absolute certainty. He knew that Chen Mu had mastered the Longyong 13 swords, and in terms of the technique's potency, Chen Tianan believed Chen Mu held the superior edge. On the arena facing Yang Ming's ferocious onslaught, Chen Mu suddenly retreated, then assumed a half-kneeling stance, spinning his blade in a circular arc. The speed was so blinding that Yang Ming had no time to mount a defense. Crack. A gash was torn through Yang Ming's trouser leg. Hiss. Yang Ming drew a sharp breath, feeling as though the very hair on his legs had been shorn away. Although it was merely a wooden sword, the sword ki it emitted was enough to slice through a tree trunk as wide as a bowl. Severing his legs would have been as effortless as snapping a twig. He stood frozen in place. It was only because Chen Mu had held back that Yang Ming remained uninjured. I concede. Yang Ming's defeat was absolute, and he accepted it with a humbled heart. The martial arena erupted in thunderous applause. They had been privileged to witness the rise of a true prodigy. Chen Mu emerged victorious, successfully advancing into the top 8. Chen Tianan stroked his beard. The dragon swinging tail maneuver was executed at the perfect moment. He possesses an extraordinary talent for combat. Bai Su nodded slightly, praising the child for his remarkably clear head during combat. He recognized that when Yang Ming launched a powerful attack, he would inevitably expose his weaknesses. With perfect composure, he seized the moment to retreat, then struck precisely at that weakness to suppress his opponent. Such combat intuition is not something gained merely through innate spiritual roots. This child is far from simple. His stability far surpasses that of his peers. He fights with a calm confidence that is truly as rare as phoenix feathers and killing horns. Indeed, could it be that he possesses such a wealth of combat experience? Hong Yang-ho looked toward Chen Tianan. Chen Tianan shook his head repeatedly, stating proudly, "I only just taught him this sword technique. Outside of practicing at home, he has never used it in actual combat. He is truly a genius." Admiration filled the eyes of Hong Yang-ho, and Gu Donglu smiled. "Congratulations to the Chen family. This young dragon's future is truly boundless." Chen Tianan hurriedly cupped his hands in a respectful gesture of thanks. With 9th-grade spiritual roots and a heaven-sent talent, today's battle is merely the beginning. His rise is undoubtedly certain. More and more factions began seeking to build favorable relations with the Chen family. After Mu secured 3 consecutive victories, sweeping through his opponents with unstoppable force, he won yet another match before the finals. The entire Blackstone City was in an uproar over Chen Mu's performance. Everyone eagerly anticipated his next match. There were still formidable opponents remaining on the field, such as Sun Qi, a disciple of the Xuanjian sect. As the time approached midday, the number of spectators at the martial arts arena did not dwindle. On the contrary, a large crowd of commoners gathered outside the city lord's mansion, all straining to hear news of what was happening inside. Many of them had never even seen Chen Mu before. Yet, he had already become the pride of all the common folk in the city. That Blackstone City could produce such a genius was a point of collective pride for all the local residents and neighbors. Even the female sword saint, who has remained single for 3,000 years, intends to propose a marriage.